Hello and welcome to Express Yourself Scotland podcast, hosted by me, Jade, a millennial dedicated to evolving perspectives and normalising honest and frank conversations regarding mental health. This is a series dedicated to human interest stories and unveiling positive direction. For our first series, we are looking at millennial males in the strength and vulnerability chapters. So, here we are. Strength and vulnerability, millennial males. This week we have a special guest, Craig Spider McIntosh. Have I said that wrong?
Aye.
McIntosh!
There you go.
McIntosh, I got there. What am I like? So Craig is best known for his involvement within the martial arts scene in Scotland. He's definitely won a few gold medals in his time and is currently the head coach at Submission Factory, I believe.
Correct, yes.
Here we go. The journey today is about how and why Craig reached a point where getting sober was the only option for him, and how his involvement in martial arts has paved the way for positive direction in his life, and really got him where he is today. Obviously being the head coach of Submission Factory, alcohol-free, mentally strong, and generally in a good place in life. So we are going to be exploring the highs and the lows of your journey, in a bid to, again, just have that frank conversation and to maybe help other people out there that might be needing to hear this. So again, I'd like to say a welcome to Craig and thank you very much for being my first guest on the show today.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So just to sort of kick us off here, the reason I got you involved here was because, you're involved in the martial arts scene. I know that you've got sober and you have been for, over 10 years now?
12 and a bit, yeah.
Wow. So
12 and a half, I think. Yeah, coming up 12 and a half.
So you are 32?
32.
32, so you got sober...
20.
20. So that's quite a pinnacle time to get sober, isn't it? That you're starting your 20s, it's a whole new decade.
Felt ancient at the time. I felt ancient. It's crazy when I think back, but at the time I just felt so old, like my life was over.
That's crazy, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's funny though, when I think back to when I was 20, in some ways I feel like I was a bit more responsible than As time goes on, you loosen off a bit, don't you? But anyway, at the start of your 20s, it's a whole new decade ahead of you. Do you think that made it easier getting sober?
I think it was definitely hard, but I just felt like I had no choice at the time, to be honest. So it probably was easier for me because I really felt like I had no choice. The alternative was that I was going to be dead or ending up in a cell for a while.
Mm-hmm. So was that around the same time you got into martial arts as well?
I started martial arts roughly a year after getting sober, but I had to spend a good bit of time trying to sort my life out first. So it wasn't... I didn't get sober for martial arts. I got sober to try and be a better person, and then was lucky enough to find martial arts, which really, really helped me stay sober. So that might help other people, that you've really got to follow your passions and find an interest, something that suits you, because martial arts isn't for everybody, but everybody will have something that they naturally gravitate towards, I think. So it's just trying to know yourself so that you can find what that is.
Yeah, of course. So when did you start drinking then?
So I started drinking about 12 years old, I think was the first time I started drinking, roughly. Other than saying that, it's a big part of the culture in the UK in general, because I know proud dad moments, like having your first pint with your son and stuff like that, and it's kind of forced everywhere. A lot of my childhood I spent just sitting in pubs and stuff with my dad because it wasn't really frowned upon, and even just getting shandies at Christmas and stuff, it's all right, it's always been looked at as here's a treat.
I know.
Here's a treat, have a wee shandy, at Christmas time when you're a wee boy, I don't know, my poor mum's going to be sitting thinking, you talking about, but even at Christmas and that, I think it's quite common that they would give kids, a wee shandy and stuff like that, a wee drink of shandy or whatever, or try it, but it's it's always kind of been looked at as a reward, but I don't know if that's really true, if it should be looked at as a reward. And
culture though, isn't it? And Scotland's very much known for having a bit of a drinking culture. I think my first drink my mum gave me was a hooch, a lemon hooch back
I remember those.
Back in the day. Apparently did they not get taken off the shelves because they were making people blind at the time or something?
Oh, really?
But anyway, so 12, as part of our culture, you start drinking. Was it because your friends were drinking? Was it sort of or What was the journey?
This is really good, I think, because so like when I did finally get sober, a big part of the thinking process was, why did I start drinking, you know? And when I look back, it was mainly because the people that I was hanging about with at the time were drinking for one, and they were all kind of the bad kids, you know, like the
Rebels.
the rebels and stuff like that. So
Rascals and rebels.
aye. So I wanted to fit in, but the stuff they were getting involved in as well, you know, I felt a bit shy to get involved in, and I was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I really want to be doing that. But drink would give you a wee bit extra courage, you know, it's something that was quite common. People would talk about drink giving you extra courage, and at the time you don't think that's a bad thing. You're like, oh well, if it does it, then it's, you know, it fixes a quick fix to the problem.
Positive feedback loop, though, isn't it? Like, yeah.
Everybody's just thinking, right, that's the right thing to do. So that was just doing what everybody else was doing, kind of experimenting with, you know, out hanging about and just trying to find out what it is, because there's so much. I think there's so much hype about drink that you're like, right, what is this drink? Let's find out. Let's get in about it. And we started getting like the older guys to, you know, to go and get us drink when we were like 12, 13 at the shop, hanging around the back of the centre. And we're like, right, okay. And I remember getting some really bad states, you know, we drank, especially like 12, 13 and 14, 15, it just kind of got worse. You started measure, like using your competitiveness towards alcohol. Like, I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but in Scotland, that's another thing. It's classed as being really masculine if you can drink a lot. You know, it's something that people talk about, like, I can drink loads, or I'd drink you under the table, and it's like, I don't know if that's really a good thing. Like, everybody gets involved in that culture. It's a big drink culture. You
And
know?
it's that, go on then.
Aye, go on. And then you're caught in it around, you know. You're a bad person if you know, if 5 people buy one drink, then you've got to stay for 5. You can't just stay for one,
So
because
true.
everybody's got to do their round, you know.
Or you get out before it's your round.
Aye, no, so that's what the sketchy people do, but it's like...
That's me.
Nice. Nice. I've got a cheek. I've been on the free juice for years, to be fair. I just don't pay for anything because I'm on juice, so I'm like, nah, I'm not. But sometimes juice is actually more expensive than drink now.
Crazy.
Red Bull is like a £5 some places if you go into a club. But
It evolved from you having your first drink when you were like 12, 13. So was that just quite the norm where you were sort of brought up?
aye, I would say so. I think definitely the area that I'm in, that's a common thing that, you know, every single little town would do. Bearing in mind that at the time there wasn't internet or anything like that, so when I was a wee guy, you know, the deal was you met your friends at a certain time. You know, that's how it worked. If you were at school, you would say, you know, let's all meet at this time. You know, same even if you go back to primary, that's how fights were arranged. Let's meet at the park at 6 o'clock and we're going to fight. You know, that's how it worked at the time. So it must be quite weird how it works now. I don't really know. Probably a lot of internet bullying and stuff happens, but yeah. So we're going way back to then, and we would all meet up at the back of the centre. We would all kind of drink. We got quite competitive. We were all drinking loads, and then you gradually drink more and more. And I'm not saying it wasn't fun. Some of those times were actually the best times of my life. You know, I'm actually so glad that I had that full time with alcohol, and I'm glad that the way that my personality works is I usually complete things quite quick. So, you know, I'd seen all of I wanted to see from drink by 20. You know, I'd seen the route that it goes, and I felt like I had done enough of the same thing over and over. It's the old Einstein saying, you know, doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity. You know, if something's not working, which it definitely wasn't working for me, then if you keep doing it, you're insane. You know, you're just putting yourself in a constant cycle of misery, really, there.
Of course. So how did alcohol maybe coincide with violence where you were sort of growing up?
I think it probably became like a fuel for the violence almost, to be honest, when I think about it. So, you know, when fighting in general in my area, it's really, really popular. It's something that I think I'd said to you before we went live, like, I think if where I'm from in Alloa, if you were to go up to like anybody in the street and ask them like who's the toughest guy in Alloa, they're probably going to say it's them. You know, anybody you stop, if you stop any wee guy, it could be It's just how people are in Alloa, that they think that they're the toughest guy in the world. It's like a lot of people feel that way, and they wouldn't admit it. They weren't. It's quite weird. Probably just to do with how their parents bring them up and stuff like that, and the fact that there is a lot of fighting going on. Like, I can remember, if I go way back to my first ever, I wouldn't really call it a fight, but the first ever sort of relationship. I've got two brothers, so we fought all the time, but it was more play fighting, and it was controlled because it was in the house. So in terms of my actual skill of fighting, it was always good because I had two brothers to practice with. I was always much stronger than most people my age. So I was always really good at fighting compared to other kids. But I was a really shy kid. I was really quiet. I was into some weird stuff. I was into like maths. I loved maths. I was obsessed with maths. I was quite intelligent. My competitiveness as a child in primary school, I put that into education and trying to be good in my class. That's where my competitiveness went to. However, people in Alloa, like I say, you kind of need to be tough, or you're going to have a bad time, pretty much. So I remember, like, my first ever one of the times walking home, like a gang of guys, just ran up, and one of them was just punching me in the face. And I can remember it clear as day, actually, asking the guy, I didn't want to run because my dad had said, like don't run away from anybody. And I think it's maybe one of the only times I've never hit somebody back, but the guy was like punching me in the face, and that was my first experience. It must have been like primary 1, primary 2. And I remember just saying to him, like, why are you punching me? And actually, I just asked if he was punching me. They weren't hurting because we're only wee boys. I was just looking at him saying, why are you hitting me? And the guy he stopped doing it, I'm sure. And then I just kind of walked away, and I was just really sad that was kind of what the world was like, to be honest. I remember just being like, oh, that was quite bad. That was for nothing.
Yeah.
Really weird. I was just walking through a bad area on the way home. I wasn't like classed as being the toughest in the school or anything like that, and I wasn't interested in trying to be the toughest in the school. But I just thought to myself, do you know what? That's fine. That at least buys me enough time that nobody's going to pick on me. I was happy at that. Then we move forward, get to high school, but now you're in a whole group of new people.
Yeah.
That's when it gets quite difficult, I think, because you're meeting all these new people. You're still struggling with your own identity, really.
Oh God,
for me, I was really, really clever in primary school. I wanted to actually go to a private school, but I passed all the tests for it, and it cost way too much money for me to go to it, so I couldn't go. So I went to, regular Alva Academy, went there, still was kind of trying to figure myself out a wee bit as to what I was into. I went through some strange stages, early on. I was into some heavy goth music, I was into everything. I was definitely my own person, Mm-hmm. I was turning up with some funky clothes on and stuff, weird clothes, like... I was pretty much asking to be picked on. See, when I think back, I was pretty much asking to be picked on. I was into wrestling, and my mum had took us to London when I was younger, so I ended up buying weird camo clothes for Camden Market, right? Camo like trousers. Before they actually ended up getting popular a few years later, so I was like, told you. But I ended up wearing them to school, and that one it was where you could wear your own clothes day. So anyway, that was quite weird. Kind of trying to find my own identity.
Did you get picked on for that?
No, really, no. It was kind of weird. I was just, I just made a point of being like I always liked everybody. I always try and treat people like an open book. So. Because I knew what it felt like for somebody to try and pick on me, I would always try and be nice to everybody. I think anybody that was at school with me, especially high school, would always say that. I spent most of my primary school trying to look out. Anybody that was my friend, I always tried to look out for them. High school was the same. I always made a point of talking to the people that nobody spoke to. Mm-hmm. The people did pick on. I tried really hard not to ever be that person. I tried to make everybody feel all right and just be pals with it. I had a lot of friends at school, So I think people were just like, oh, that's all right. But as you start to get a bit older, I started hanging about, as we're now at the bit where I started drinking, and that's when everybody starts to get the badness coming out in them, really. Mm-hmm. You start to see people becoming bullies and stuff, and I think at that stage I just decided to myself, do you know what, like, being nice to these people does not work. Like, they just absolutely mistake kindness for weakness, and you really need to be tough, you know. And that was once I got to about second year, I think that's when I started thinking, right, I actually really need to kind of learn how to fight here and learn how to defend myself, because there's a lot of bad stuff happening. Like, people were getting really hurt badly, beat up badly all the time, like regular. And I was thinking, I do not want that to be me. Really badly hurt, put in hospital, battered all the time,
Wow.
gang beatings and stuff like that. That was when the knife stuff started happening. People were cutting about with knives and stuff, like
Was that in high school?
high school. Like people were cutting about with knives. There was like it was wild. Like, the police started shutting down a lot of places because at the weekends, you know, everybody was out drinking, and literally people from like second year up to like 18 years old were hanging about the streets, and there was actually bans on all the streets at the time that we weren't allowed to go about the streets or anything like that at night. A lot of the places, like areas people couldn't come to, there was a place called Murray Square in Tilly, and you would have gatherings of like 100, you know, maybe more people, teenagers and youths all just drinking and going wild, and like shutting off buses. And if somebody got hurt in an ambulance, people were trying to tip the ambulance. It was like proper like riot material. It was crazy just even walking about in that stuff. And to be honest, I probably shouldn't have been even out at that time, you know.
Was that like the 90s or noughties?
What would that be then? So that's that's about 20 years ago. So you're talking just, bang on year 2000 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just after that, there was a lot of gang fights as well. You know, so where I stay, it's like a lot of small towns. A wee town, Menstrie, Alva, Tillicoultry, Alloa, Sauchie, and all these wee small towns would always fight against each other. You know, there would be. Whereas I actually always got on with everybody in different towns. So I had a weird, because I was from Alloa, I kind of got on with people from all different ones. You know, I didn't really, choose a side or anything like that, because I wasn't like born in any of those towns and brought up in any of those towns. I just kind of thought, right, I'm just going to kind of get on with people and like people for people. So I always tried to keep that approach. But everybody else had a really small town kind of mentality where they would be like, yeah,
Tribalism, isn't it?
Aye, like proper tribalism where you're like, you're from Alva, you're a different kind of human, and it's if they were from the town, the next town along, they'd beat a person up just from being for that town, and I would see that all the time, like it would happen all the time. But to be honest, when I look at it, like honestly, more often than not, these people would actually more often not pick on weak people. You know, they would pick on people that weren't going to stand up for themselves or. So I notice all these things, you know, and I notice, and I think if you're going to act like that, you're probably pretty weak yourself. So, I always think a lot of the time people are in crowds or gangs and things because they don't believe in themselves, or because they're quite weak. I think they need that support. They need their friend groups, etc.
As you said as well before, like before we went live, but just that being fueled by fear.
Mm-hmm.
And then how it manifests itself.
Everywhere, I would think.
Oh,
I think it probably just happens everywhere at school, that, you know, there's these people that usually the bullies end up, you know, complete losers later on in life, and then when you look at it stems usually for their upbringing as well. They're probably getting bullied at home and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I know they teach you that in school, and you just think, oh, that's a load of crap, but a lot of the time that really is true, and you know, it comes for their own. Dissatisfaction at life that they try and take out on everybody else. You know, that's usually where those places come from. But for me, I just thought, you know what? I had one really good friend who was tough at the time, and we just stuck together really, really close. And we decided, you know, no matter what, if it's like 4, 5, 6 people, the two of us will always back each other up. And a guy called Jordan, and we kicked most people's ass. Nobody bothered us, and that was pretty much how it worked. And a lot of the time, we actually ended up beating up a lot of bullies, you know, which it helped a lot, you know. I think people really liked it at the time, But I think you've always got to, anytime you're beating other people up, you've always got to be careful that you're not then becoming a bully as well. So it's getting that, it's a fine balance, you know. But got enough street cred that I wasn't going to get picked on or anything like that. But you start getting involved in all these kind of wild gang fights and stuff. People are, from a self-defence point of view, people are coming down with knives and things like that, and you're really having to back yourself up. You're really having to put yourself into quite a bad place to be able to deal with these kind of people, because you could get, like, people were getting seriously hurt, like bricks over their head and stabbed and stuff like that, and hit with baseball bats and all sorts of stuff like that, bottled all the time. Like, people were regularly getting like smashed with bottles, stuff like that. It was just...
Is that something that you saw regularly?
Regularly, like nearly every weekend there was fights like that happening. I just decided I was hanging about with these groups of guys that were involved in that, and you know, I was involved in it as well, and just through the drink as well. The drink was kind of fueling all that, and we were having all these gang fights and stuff. You're seeing a lot of really bad stuff, and when I think back at the time as well, you know, we were getting 14, 15, 16, getting older, but just like at the time there was some 7-8-year-old kids running about with us that's mums had just put them at the house. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, when I see that, it just makes me sad thinking back, and I think, fucking hell, like, some people just don't care about their kids.
Aye.
You know, they're just leaving their kids out in the house to run about with gangs of people. Like, what chance have they got?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like, at least I understood what was happening. I was there by choice.
Mm-hmm.
But there was actually some wee kids that were hanging about with us when these sorts of fights were happening. And the kids were only like, 7 or 8. Like, I remember, and a lot of people were start taking drugs at that point as well. So when we got to 14, 15, 16, that's when people started taking ecstasy and stuff.
Yeah.
Speed, stuff like that. One of the worst sights I ever seen, actually, looking back on it, that was, we skived school one day, and with my two friends. And my two friends were alright, they were decent enough guys. We went through to Alloa. We were going to visit my friend's dad. But as we were doing it, one of the schools was getting out, and a gang of guys just ended up chasing us, and we're like, shit, we better go. There's like 40 of them. It was like a full squad of people. So we were like, and they were like chasing us, running, shouting at us, just because they didn't know who we were, which is just how it kind of went. And he's like, quick, go running into my uncle's house. So we went running into his uncle's house, and we went in, we're like, sat down on the couch and stuff, and his uncle was a heroin addict. And he started taking heroin in front of us, smoking it. And I'll never ever forget the smell. It was absolutely disgusting. Mm-hmm. It was like this strong fish smell. It was horrible. Horrible. And I just remember, like, my friends were a few years older than me, but I just remember being a wee guy and being like, fucking hell. His uncle offered him the heroin. And I was like, whose fucking uncle would offer them heroin, man? Like, I just remember thinking to myself, what, like, I really need to be careful what I'm doing here. And luckily he said no. You know, he did say no, but I just couldn't believe that he offered them it as well. Kind of like, why would you, like, he was only maybe like 15, 16 or something. I was like 14, 13, whatever. But imagine offering like a 15, 16-year-old heroin.
Well, there's a couple of things here, you know, when someone's been doing the same thing all the while, they normalise the behaviour. Mm-hmm. So then it's funny how things become like less shocking, you know, when you're fully involved in it. And secondly, it could be an element of, if they're involved, then they don't feel like all the focus is on them. You know what I mean? It's like, just get more people involved. I've known people like that. You know, it's one of those weird things that kind of like, it shares out the responsibility and the accountability of the action, you know.
Misery loves company. That's the saying. Yes. Misery loves company.
There we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Aye, because I seen that and I thought, that's crazy. Even at the time, I can just remember thinking, that's crazy that somebody would do that. They're maybe thinking, I feel alright. I think the guy was dead in like 5 years later, to be honest. His uncle died, I'm sure, 5 years later, which is mad, because heroin, there we go. But yeah, which later in life I actually ended up losing a friend to, which was crazy. But so I went for there, I went to... that still didn't put me off getting involved in that kind of life. I was drinking. I started taking drugs myself. Started taking, ecstasy, cocaine. Started taking cocaine about 16, 17, something like that. ecstasy round about the same time, which was pretty heavy going. Some guys actually, I remember some people actually gave the kid who was then about 9, 10, I'm sure they gave him ecstasy. Some of the guys that were hanging about ended up having to beat the shit out of somebody because of for giving the kid that, because I used to look after one of the wee kids that ran about. I'd always give him money for sweets and food and that because he was put out of the house. And I was actually, despite being an absolute lunatic, even as soon as I left school, I did start working. I've never not worked since I left school actually. But it was weird that I was even able. I was kind of like functioning. That's the best way to describe it. So I always had money. I always worked and had work ethic, which definitely helped. And probably, I think when people give up on that, they're totally done.
Aye.
But so I would use some of my spare money. I'd try and give that lad money for food and stuff like that. And I would actually sometimes take him away for a wee game of pool and just try and get him away off the streets and stuff like that, and not getting himself in bother. But it's quite hard, I think, for people when they've not people aren't caring about them as much as they maybe should. But I used to get really annoyed with that. I just think, why would you try and lead somebody into that kind of life that early on? Like, not just that, but it could kill somebody that young.
Absolutely.
Taking drugs like that. So, so I was trying to do my best with what I could anyway. But loads of fights. Got involved in loads of fights. Started venturing, further afield. Started going to Stirling to play pool and stuff like that. And the more that you kind of went to different places in Scotland, people just wanted to fight you as a young guy. It's kind of weird, eh? Like, it's just all I was doing in my head was just standing up to bullies. Any time somebody tried to pick on me, I just would stand up to them. And that's pretty much from a young age, from 12, 13, I just decided I'm not going to let anybody pick on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of missed a stage actually there totally. When in first year, I did let somebody pick on me actually, and it stayed with me for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that was not long after that I decided I'll never let anybody pick on me again. And that was pretty much what happened. I could go into a nightclub right now, and even with a set of cauliflower ears and being quite a big guy, people would still try and start fights with me. But it's just the difference is now I've got enough control of myself, and I know my own capabilities to the point where I can totally laugh. Like, I actually find it funny if somebody was to start me. I'm just like, you're all right, pal. You're a wee bit drunk. Like, I just be nice to people because I've got nothing at all to prove. But when you're younger, you're trying to prove all this stuff to yourself, and I think that's probably one of the best messages for people that are growing up is like, it's the wrong avenue to prove yourself and to prove your toughness. If you wanted to try and prove you were tough in street fights, you'll have an endless supply. You'll have an endless supply of assholes. There's so many, that you would literally be beating people up for the rest of your life, and it only leads to one place, and that's you end up in jail, because you can't get in fights all the time without getting in trouble. Some people get lucky, but I got lucky for a long, long time. All the fights I was getting in, I never got into trouble with the law. I had some really bad situations. I had one where a guy bloody tried to attack me on a bus. We were going on a night out. A guy tried to attack me on a bus. He was pissing on the bus where I was with my girlfriend at the time. She's a really nice girl, well brought up and stuff. And I'd said to her, would you go to the guy started pissing really near, and she went, ooh, that's disgusting. The guy just got out of the jail. He was a lot older than me. He turned around and he started saying, fucking shut your mouth, blah, 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 roaring in my face like, I'll fucking kill you, I'll stab you, blah, blah, blah. Calling her all sorts of names and everything. I'm like, fucking hell, here we go. I had nothing in my hands, but I managed to defend myself. He was an older guy that was meant to be this and that. I was only a wee guy. So a lot of things like that happened to me where it ended up making me out to be like quite a bad guy.
Yeah.
People were like, oh, he fucking throws people off the back of bus for fun and attacks people with hammers for fun, not realising that in every single situation it was actually self-defence.
It's just like the media though, isn't it? People cut and paste and twist, and before you know it, you're branded mental.
Aye, it's crazy, and that was it. People were like, that guy's a psycho. That's what people were saying, but it was, I had a bad temper, I'll give it that, but every single time it was just me defending myself.
Righteous anger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty righteous. And the alternative to what would have happened would have been me getting severely hurt. So it was either I defended myself or I got severely hurt. So,
Absolutely.
And that's like 2 occasions. But I can honestly think of like 20 different occasions like that. That scar there, I was fighting with a bunch of guys, and I was sticking up for a wee guy. He actually still trains me to this day. He's a big guy now, big strong guy now, but he's one of my good friends. Still comes and trains me to this day, lives in Edinburgh. But he was getting picked on because he was singing. He was singing, and I was hanging about with his gang kind of thing. There was a bunch of guys in Socky, and they were picking on him. I didn't like it. I stood up for him, and the guy had literally just robbed the fucking house. So he had like a big giant CD player in his hand, right? This is weird as anything. And then, so I've been like, fucking don't pick on him, blah, blah, blah. And he's been like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'll fucking bar you, that's what I do, don't pick on him. And he's like, fuck you, threw the CD player at my face and ran away. And he's like, blah, 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 I'll meet you here. In a minute, but I think I had like a chib on me. A big bit of wood or something. So I walked in to meet these guys. They all jumped out of a car with bats and shit. And a couple of them had belts and stuff. I remember that. I was pretty steaming, and I'm pretty sure they were as well. But I remember walking up to all of them and thinking, like, I'm definitely going to beat the five of you. And one of them was like one of the guy's dads. And I'm like, what am I fucking thinking here? You know, when I think back in it, I just think I don't even know if I'd fancy that now.
I know, fearless though.
So I walked up and I had like the bat. I dropped the bat and I was like, I'm going to let you hit me first. Walked up, let the guy hit me out of the face with like, it was either like a pool cue or a bat or something right there. I got the scar in my eye. And I got hit twice with it clean across the face. The third time I took it out of the guy's hands and chased him. He fucking ran like anything. Just craziness, loads of craziness. My dad was worried sick about me as well. I think he thought I was going to meet my wee brother. Everybody was worried sick about me. I think they thought I was going to go to like the loony bin, to be honest. Just stuff like that was literally happening every single weekend. Just crazy, violent stuff. Me just, and you can always find stuff like that if you want to, but it's no good. It doesn't actually prove anything because not one of these guys can fight.
Yeah.
None of them can actually fight even slightly. You know, and that's the thing I always try and remember, because the street fighting stuff always cracks me up when people talk about street fighting, because I had countless amount of street fights, and not one I didn't ever lose to anybody. So I know for a fact none of them can fight, and that's why I found MMA so amazing when I finally got into it and finally found it, because I'd been through all of that, and these guys, the thing was, I looked up to all these guys that were coming out the jail, and they had loads of money because of all the dodgy shit they were up to. They were probably, drug dealers or whatever, involved in all sorts of, some of them had pubs or laundering money and shit. They were all into all the dodgy stuff, and I looked up to these guys. I thought they were like gangsters. I thought they were amazing. I thought they were tough and stuff like that, until you realise like a lot of the stuff that they do actually comes from fear.
Yeah.
And all it really just comes for that. It's like fear, paranoia, and then you start seeing that none of these guys actually have real friends.
Yeah.
And you're like, fucking hell, man, that's horrible. Like, imagine having no friends that were actually genuine friends that liked you because of who you were. They would just like you because they wanted drugs from you, or they wanted something from you, and everybody had an agenda.
Yeah.
But that's what you actually see in a lot of these cultures, is just people leeching on each other, and they're either wanting protection from you, or they want protection, or they want drugs, or they're trying to gain something. It's just people leeching off each other. It's not a nice culture to be involved in.
Yeah.
And I just realised, eventually I realised that, these aren't the good people to look up to. And, if you look at anybody that gets involved in that kind of lifestyle, maybe it's good for like a period of time, but it never ever ends good.
No.
Like, I don't know any guys that are like long-time drug dealers or long-time involved in organised crime or anything like that are happy in their life. Either the paranoia gets them, the law gets them, the drugs get them, or the lifestyle gets them. Something gets them eventually, and they'll be dead before they're a decent age, or they live a life of misery. It's not a good way to go, So I'm glad that I got exposed to that and got to see that, because I would never ever be infatuated with that again. It's not a good life. It would be a horrible, horrible life to be involved in.
I know.
And the funny thing is that it's all based around like people being tough and alpha males and stuff, but
Totally glamorised, isn't it?
but it's such bullshit. None of them can fight. Honestly, I've never met one of them that could even fight sleep. Maybe they would stab you, maybe they would, but having it in you to stab somebody, or having it in you to kill somebody, that's not a good thing. That means you don't care about your own life, really. And you're not bothered if you get the jail for life. You're not bothered about anything. A lot of it doesn't come from a good place. It comes from really not being happy within yourself, and bad circumstances, maybe you're taking out in the world what's happened to you in life and stuff, but it's not a good way to go, you know. You never ever be happy going down that route. I've seen way too many people go down that route and either end up in an asylum or end up in jail for a long time. Like as I said to you before this, most of the guys that I grew up with either ended up in jail or, or some people actually ended up with serious mental health conditions like severe schizophrenia and things like that as well for the drugs and the amount of stuff that they had seen, and or just in really bad places. But luckily I know a lot of other people. I had a wide range of friends and a lot of other people that went in good paths in life, and if you gravitate towards more of those kind of people that are doing good things, positive energy, you can keep yourself on track.
For sure. So was there like a moment where like you just said that did something happen? Was it a moment where you thought to yourself, this is it? Like I absolutely cannot go on any further?
I think I had a bunch of those where like drinking drugs and stuff where I felt like I can't do this to my body anymore. I was at the point where I was getting to my worst, 18, 19, approaching 20. I was probably drinking most days. Despite working, I was drinking most days. I was taking drugs pretty much all weekend, Friday to Monday, pretty much. It wasn't very good at all. And one of the things that really hit me hard was the people around me, the friends that I had. I didn't feel like they were real friends. I didn't feel like I could trust them at all. Mm-hmm. The people that were good people in my life were starting to gravitate away from me because
your involvement with others.
Because I was starting to become one of those bad guys, starting to become one of those people. So you've kind of got to be really honest with yourself, I think, at that stage, and just be like, I wasn't happy with who I was as a person. The biggest saver for me was I had moved out my mum and dad's house because they had split up, and I'd moved in with my gran and granddad. Because of all the trouble I'd got in, I just think it wasn't real. I think that was the solution at the time, was to move me in with my gran and granddad's, which was quite strange actually, because I obviously grew up in a house with two brothers and used to having people around me, so I moved into almost like isolation with my gran and granddad. But my gran and granddad, from a good background, they were, I suppose you would maybe class them as posh, but just really, really good, well brought up people. And my granddad is probably maybe the greatest person I've ever met in my life. So just getting to see how he just like seeing what's like strong in a different way, and seeing things in a different way. So loads of things like that were happening. I remember my dad saying to me, I had always had, when I was younger, I had such big dreams of doing this and that, and going to America and things like that. I'd always said when I was a wee guy, I want to go to America when I'm older. I'm going to live there for a bit and stuff. I always used to say that. And I remember my dad saying, like, what happened to all your dreams and stuff? And I was like, when things were kind of falling apart, and he was more slagging me for it, but dads are good that way, where it's got the right intention. It hits the mark. Like if he had just said to me what happened to going to America, but he's like, what happened to that? And he actually just more slagging me for it, and I was like, right, hits the mark a wee bit more. So just a combination of everything at once. It was a combination of definitely not going down the right path in life. Moving in with my gran and granddad, I was disappointing them big time. The police were turning up at the door a lot because I was getting in a lot of fights. I'd gotten in probably one fight where the guy didn't deserve it, and I'd hurt him, and so I'd got charged for that. I'd got in a fight in a club, and then I'd got in another fight. I'd got in another fight with bouncers as well, so that was quite a bad one. And again, that one wasn't my fault. If right was right and it wasn't to do with the law, I still feel I was in the right. Maybe I went a wee bit far, but I actually feel I was in the right still for that. Mm-hmm. It's just the way the law works out that bouncers are usually pretty smart. They're sober and they know the law, whereas I'm just a wee drunk guy, Yeah. So that was one of the last sort of problems I got into. I was out fighting, and basically the bouncer was wanting to throw me out for whatever reason. I said I just came in here. think I'd had a problem with a guy and we'd got in an argument, but nothing had actually happened. We'd just been in. He's like, I said, look, I've came in here 5 minutes. The guy started on me. We've been arguing. I'm not leaving. You can give me my money back. I'll leave if you want. And the bouncer was like, no, you are leaving. Started like trying to throw me about. And we kind of started fighting. I started fighting with the one bouncer. We burst through the cloakroom door. I ended up on top of him, and I was getting the better of that guy. But the rest of them kicked in the door and sort of closed the door behind them. About 3 or 4 bouncers all kicking the shit out of me, kicking my head in, trying to kill me really. You know, I was curled up in a fetal position. They're just trying to kick my head in, stomping all over me. And I just thought, my 2 friends seen it through the cloakroom window. And they kicked the door in, and then we ended up taking out the full bouncer staff and left them in a bad way. So this is all before martial arts, so it's not like we were trained or anything like that. But I probably went a wee bit far with the one guy that was originally beating the shit out of me, because he was quite happy to kick me in the head when I was in a ball. So I felt like, well, I'm quite happy to give you it back at the time. But yeah, that I ended up getting charged for that, and was told by my lawyer to expect jail.
Thanks for tuning in for this week's episode. It was a tale of a slippery slope known too well by many. In next week's episode, we delve into changing perspectives and the defining moments that turn Craig's life around. The struggle, the sacrifice, and the reward. We talk about Craig's relationship and career within martial arts, and talk about mental health and well-being. Special thanks to Combat Central Gym and Combat Scotland TV for this week's video footage. So I really do hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Please tune in for next week and subscribe to my channel.